Good afternoon, everybody. This is Mike Hadaway. I hope you're having a good day, and the weekend is closer than it was yesterday, so that's good. So let me tell you a little bit about our company and what we are working on with the RESA, the Northwest Georgia RESA. And Bucky, I appreciate the opportunity today. Otis Educational Systems has been focused on education data since 2000. We actually began our company in 2000, and OtisEd is, we use that for short. Actually, just if you're curious, Otis is the grandfather of our founder, Eddie Parker, so that's why the company's named. We're not the elevator company, but we have been focused purely on data analytics, aggregating data for school districts and state education agencies. And we're in Powder Springs, Georgia. Believe it or not, we're a local company. We have employees scattered across the country, but this is our home base. And most of the executive staff live in this area, and so we love Georgia. We are deployed in 7 state departments as their SLDS, just like you guys interact with SLDS in Georgia. We actually do the SLDS projects for a number of states across the country, and we also work with a number of school districts directly. And we have really focused our team on understanding education data. We came out of corporate America. Most of us have backgrounds with Fortune 500 companies where we built these types of systems in our career to do sales and revenue, analytics, etc. And so that's how we started. And here's just a collection, a portfolio of some of our customers. South Dakota STARS, we built that system and continue to maintain it with South Dakota. We're in a number of school districts across the country, and we've actually worked with 3 regional agencies in the past through business partners, and so this will be the first time we've worked with a regional agency directly, and we are excited about that. We actually have a product that our iMart product has been in place and is on its 3rd version now for about 9 years. Prior to that, we had another product called the School Data Bus, which we no longer provide, but a number of school districts around the state, around the country, use that for a number of years. And last year, actually, toward the beginning of last year, we actually introduced a beta version of a new solution built on top of our iMart data warehouse called iMart Analytics, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'll talk a little bit about Dalton Public Schools, where we have launched this in their school district. They're in full implementation and have already been using it for the last 9 months, and they're in the process of rolling it out to their end users. So I'm just going to do a few slides, and then we can get to the actual demo. As we all know, we call it the education data headache. And every school district that I've dealt with over the past 15 years, 16 years, they all have the same problem, and that is that they have multiple systems that house data, and they need to, on many occasions, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, they need to be able to develop reports and analytics, and they need to understand the information, the data, and the information that's happening in their district so that decisions can be made, operational reports can be produced, etc. And invariably, you end up with a number of district data silos. SIS, Student Information System, you have Human Resources, Finance, Assessment. A lot of people do not know this, but in the United States, especially prior to the Common Core and the Smarter, Balanced, and PARC movement, there were over 540 assessment titles, separate assessment titles being provided in school districts across the country. So assessment data is a real challenge for school districts as you adopt new assessments. So that's a problem. And then when you end up with multiple years of this data, you really end up with a larger headache. If somebody comes to you and says, we're doing an audit and we want to see, how you've been providing services to a particular population over the last 8 years. Maybe it's a civil rights research and study, or maybe it's a grant that needs to be analyzed. I've heard nightmare stories where districts had to go and pull together old systems, etc., and it takes a lot of time to pull that together. So one of the things that we try to focus on is helping to create an efficiency in the organization so that you can get to the data very quickly. The second issue is if you want to do any type of correlation of data, so you may want to look at the student's performance on a particular assessment, whether it's a high stakes test or whether it's a formative benchmark, and you want to correlate that maybe with their attendance or maybe their tardiness, or maybe you want to correlate it with teacher certification, whatever you want to correlate it with. If you have to go to multiple systems for that, it becomes very difficult. So I'm sure everybody on this call can resonate with that. And so what we do, we actually have designed a process over the years. It's the same thing that we did in corporate America, and that is we connect to these systems and we bring that data together into one place. We don't replace those systems. We don't attempt to do the same type of reporting that a student information system does, but we will bring that data into a single repository, and then when it's in that single repository, you can access that data in one place, and not just today's data, but you can also access historical data. We have customers who have 20 years of longitudinal data in their data warehouse system. Dalton actually that has began their implementation to their users actually has, I think, 7 or 8 years of longitudinal data in their system. So we bring that into our iMart data warehouse, and then our iMart analytics solution is really the solution and the tools that the end users see, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. Just know that behind the scenes there's a whole host of other components that we have designed over the years to handle education data, whether it's assessment data or whether it's student information system data, etc. At the core of our system is a data model, and our data model has been designed and improved and iterated over the years. And usually what we do is when we start a project with an agency, like my mama used to say, you don't always eat the elephant at one sitting, or you don't eat the whole elephant in one sitting. So we kind of iterate our way through. And with regard to the Northwest Georgia RESA and the 16 districts, these are the data domains that we're going to focus on in the initial project. But we have a whole series of domains around finance data, around discipline, other domains that survey, those types of things that we can also bring online when it's the right time. So we're going to really have a focus so that we can implement this in phases and create value as soon as possible for everybody involved. The other benefit, in addition to the districts having the ability to go in and look at their own data, we do highly secure that data. So there will be and this is the same security model that we use in state implementations, where we have 165 or 200 school districts logging in to the same database. We have a data security architecture that is designed to support FERPA. So at no time would another school district see your student or your teacher personally identifiable information. As a matter of fact, we could lock it down so that they don't see anything, of course. However, if the RESA and the region agree to do some regional aggregate reports, the benefit of having all of the district data in one place for all 16 districts is now they can do regional reporting. There's a lot that you can do that you just can't do today with SLDS or through the existing disparate systems. So iMart Analytics, we're going to jump right into it. iMart Analytics is designed so we can provide an interface to that data, and that interface, the user, whether you're a power user and you have the ability to build reports and analytics, or whether you're just a reader and you can consume those reports and analytics, there is no programming in the application itself. So it's a tool set that allows you to build analytics, but you don't have to be a technical expert. You don't have to know Microsoft SQL or some language like that. And if anybody is ever interested in doing more of a technical deep dive, we'll be happy to do that with you on another call. I'm going to just move through some of these things. The other thing that we are doing right now, and we're collaborating with our customers, Dalton, with regard to Georgia, we will be collaborating with the 16 districts in the Northwest Georgia RESA and the RESA staff. We're developing portfolio packs, and some of those portfolio packs are in really brainstorming right now. So for an example, we're going to develop a portfolio pack for district and school profile, so that if a superintendent or a principal or assistant principal sits down and they run their profile, they will have in that dashboard what they want to see. And the RESA will be working with subgroups across the district to help define those dashboards, so that we can make sure that they are catered to the overall goals of the project and of the districts. And another important point before we jump into the demo is that the concept that we are providing is something fairly new to the education space. It's being used in corporate America fairly effectively. The technology that we use for our iMart Analytics is the same technology that Facebook is using to analyze clicks when you go to Facebook and you click on certain icons or certain links. It's the same technology that LinkedIn and Amazon and Walmart are using. So it's very advanced technology that corporate America has been using for a number of years, and we've been able to bring that effectively and economically to the education space. But the idea is self-service education intelligence, so that with the proper training and the correct implementation, the key personnel will be able to go in and basically build, answer questions, build reports, ask the system questions, build the information, and then produce the output, and then publish that output to the users in the form of a number of components. One component which I'll show you is our analytical dashboard, which would be similar to a Tableau if you've ever used that product, or if you've used any of the Microsoft Power Pivot products or Excelsius. There's a number of products that do this. Those products are really good and they're strong, but they are standalone products, whereas the solution that we provide is fully integrated with the back-end data warehouse. So it's a little bit different in that regard. We also have the ability to produce, and we'll train key staff and personnel how to develop dashboards that are, we call them production dashboards, or document style dashboards, and I'll give you a brief example of that. And then there's also the ability to create interactive reports. There is a delineation between an analytical dashboard and a report. The reports are really designed so that you can do operational reporting. So if you wanted to have if the data is in the warehouse and you wanted to have a report that a teacher could print out for a parent, these are all developed so that they can be print ready. Parents will not have access to this system, but a teacher potentially could click a report, run it for that student, and print it out, which is very effective if you're trying to provide your parents with a comprehensive view of the student. And you may not be able to get that all from the student information system, so you may have a compilation of things. So the interactive report is very effective. Everything also, all these tools that I've shown you also integrate with Microsoft Excel, so that you can download the data, you can interact with it offline, and there's a number of pieces like that. And then we also have additional options for mobile. The last thing I was going to show you is just some of the portfolio direction that we're going, designing these district overviews, which would also have a school version of this, etc. So this is just a high-level idea. And the RESA version of this may not look like this. It may have different components on it, but it will be similar to this type of layout for these point-and-click dashboards, which we call document dashboards. So that's my PowerPoint presentation. Before I jump into the demo, I'm going to pause for just a minute and ask if there are any questions so far. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to log into Dalton. Dalton has actually given us permission to demo their environment. We will not demo any PII or any student level data, so everything that we will demo is aggregate level data. And you know, we can set up another demo if you want to get into some more detailed granular data for students, and we would use a demo database in that regard. But I thought Dalton would be relevant to the conversation today. So I'm going to log in. I'm actually logging in as a power user. The terminology we use is called web professional. We use that terminology because the company that provides the partnership we have is with a company called MicroStrategy, and they have developed an education partnership with our company. They're very passionate about what their software can do to assist education across the country. We also have another software package or a suite of software that manages all of the data behind the scenes. You probably won't see that as an end user or as a user of this system, and we developed that ourselves, and that is called Zipline. So this is iMart Analytics. Now, as a power user, when I log in, and I'm going to give you quickly a landscape view and give you a quick overview. As a power user, when I log in, I have a lot of options, and 90% of the population that will use this in an agency will not be a power user. They would have a smaller set of options. Some will have read-only options, and some would have the ability to create content, but in a limited fashion. And we can talk more about that if you want to at some point. But it's pretty, it's very intuitive. We have a shared reports folder. Within the shared reports folder, you can organize folders around content in any way you want. You could organize it around subject areas. You could organize it geographically. The other really powerful thing is that we could have an interface that when a district principal logs in, they would see a completely different set of folders than if a school counselor logged in. Or if District A logs in and District B logs in, there could be a differentiation of their experience. So it gives the RESA a lot of options on how to share information. Within these folders, and we'll go there in a minute, that's where all of the dashboards and different objects are made available. If you're a report creator, you also have a My Reports folder, and this is basically your own personal folder area that that can be maintained with subfolders, so that if you're building analytics but you don't want those to be public yet, you can keep them in that environment. There's a number of other features. I'm not going to go through all of these, but there is a subscription capability where you can subscribe to a specific report or analytics, and if I subscribe, it gives me different options, so that I may say I want to be emailed every Monday and I want to be emailed a link to this report. There's a number of actions that you can do with regard to subscriptions, which is very powerful as well. And then there's the development tools, which allow you to actually build content. So what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to build something very quickly. And then we're going to move from that to show you some of the output that happens when you actually build something to its completion. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new report and from a blank report. And when I do that, it basically gives me a blank worksheet, and I can now navigate over to the left, and this is actually the data warehouse itself. So to make this very simple, since we have a limited amount of time, if I wanted to do a very quick historical enrollment report broken down by, let's just say broken down by gender, you can do this very quickly. You grab academic year, and I'm going to look at it by school. So I will grab school name, and I may want to also see this by a particular student demographic. And as you see, I'm just simply dragging data elements over. These data elements are the elements in the data warehouse itself. So I'll grab student gender, and then I want to actually count the number of kids we have. So I'm going to grab a metric. And as you see, we have a metrics, we call this a metrics catalog. So the product comes with a set of metrics already predefined, but the customer, the RESA, the appropriate staff would have the ability to create their own metrics as well. So you're not limited to the metrics that we provide you. Unlike a lot of systems where they're more of an application that have a specific set of interfaces, and you really can't change those unless you go back to the vendor. So we're just going to grab number of students very quickly, and I'm going to run this report. And in just a matter of seconds, now it takes a second to build it the first time, and then it caches. It built that report very quickly. And this report is a report that can be published just like it is, or you could format it in different ways. For example, we do provide templates out of the box, so you may want to change the colors all in one template, or you may want to change specific items. So anytime you right-click on any of the cells at the top and the left, you can see we have a great deal of formatting capability. So you can change number styles, colors, etc., and you can do that in the entire report itself. The other nice thing is that you'll notice that when I roll over Blue Ridge Elementary, I actually have a drill through, and this is something in our architecture that's been designed so that if you build a report that has a drill through already defined in our system, you don't have to define that. You can actually turn that off in the report itself so people can't drill through. But in this case, if I drill through, it's actually going to take me to Blue Ridge Elementary, and it's going to take me directly to the grade level. And if I drill further, it's actually going to take me to the student name, which I will not do since this is actually Dalton data. The other cool thing about this is this report's fully interactive, so I can move things around if I wanted to. You know, I can. It's like a pivot table. You know, that's probably a simple way to classify it, since you're familiar with Excel in most cases. There's a lot of features here. It would take us so much time to go over all the features, but I'll show you one that's kind of cool real quick. Maybe I just want to have a prompted report. I can actually just drag school name up to this page by section, and I can actually run this report again. And now I have, you know, I had already filtered on Blue Ridge Elementary, but I would now have a drop-down list. And so, so this is a very easy way to design these reports. And for example, if I wanted to do the same thing but with grade level, I could take grade level and bring it up, and I'll take Blue Ridge out of the filter so it won't filter anymore. And you'll see now I've created very simply just through easy drag and drop. I've got all my schools, I've got all the grades right here, and then if I wanted to chart this, I could simply hit my chart button and it would allow me to chart that. And then I could come in and format the chart, change it so that it makes more sense, whatever you want to do with the chart. The graphing options in the report component are very extensive, so you have a whole series of graphs that you can use for the report. So I'm going to save this really quickly so we can use it in just a second, and I'm going to drop it into my shared reports, and we'll just call this saved report, and I'm going to save it, and I'll run it again really quickly. So if you publish these reports, Dalton is still in the process of rolling this out to their end users. So once it's rolled out, they'll simply publish the report, and they can actually they could actually say, I want to let everybody know that this report is available, and they could hit the Send Now button, and it would launch their email client, or it would launch an interface, and they could actually then send out a note to everybody that that report is available, or they could set up a subscription so that it would notify folks that that report is available as well. But in the case of Dalton, because they haven't rolled it out yet, they wanted to be able to at least provide these in Excel. And so an example of that is when the Georgia milestones data came in, Dalton received it, and they received it well before the state had placed any reports out on the portal. And they provided the data to us, and they actually dropped the data in a folder on their secure network, and we have a process that automatically secure transmits that to our hosted environment. And then we loaded the data over about a 2-day period, and then Dalton built a whole series of reports so that they could then create Excel spreadsheets. Now, next year when they roll this out to the end users, they won't use Excel, but in the past, when they did CRCT last year, Debbie Hughes indicated that it took about 5 to 7 days to build all the Excel spreadsheets that they needed. In this case, you simply hit export and you choose Excel with formatting, and we're going to actually generate an Excel spreadsheet. And it is doing that right now. It takes a second, and it'll build it. And it's actually pulling the whole report together. This is a pretty large report. And it's going, while it's doing that, it's also going to format the Excel spreadsheet itself. And so when we click the Excel spreadsheet, you'll see that we now have that same report formatted in Excel. And you'll notice that also it automatically generated tabs for each school, because that's the way we had the page break set up in the report. So this is a huge time saver if you're trying to generate something very quickly. Maybe you want to provide this to people who do not have access to the system, parent group, board member, whomever, community members. So it's a very fast way to interact with Excel. And so that is our report functionality. And again, there's a lot of functionality in here that we could talk about. But I want to move on though to the next type of visualization, and that is the document style dashboard. And I'm going to use another example from Dalton. So the superintendent wanted a success dashboard that would aggregate a number of metrics together, and eventually they want to publish this on their public website, which we do have the capability to make these reports public through a secure module that we provide. So this is the public success dashboard that Dalton created, and it's actually pulling a number of metrics together in one place. So I'm seeing my kindergarten readiness metric that Dalton has indicated that they're using, my 3rd grade reading proficiency metric, my 8th grade math proficiency metric, and my graduation rate metric. And then of course you can traverse over the years, and they have more years than this, but this is the number of years they wanted for this particular visualization. They also wanted a connectedness capability visualization. So the connectedness was, again, their extracurricular data that basically shows how many students are involved or participating in co-curricular and extracurricular activities. And then finally they wanted an alumni success visualization, and this is actually based on National Clearinghouse data. So you can actually see college attendance, and I can see that we have it broken out by in-state, out-of-state schools. We have 2-year, 4-year schools, and then we have public-private schools. And then finally they wanted a freshman persistence. So this shows the percent of college freshmen returning to college for the 2nd year. And again, this is also disaggregated out by different college types. So you can see this is a very visually appealing, very simple to use, not complex at all. And these can be designed really in any type of interface. So you know, you can use different graphics, different different visualizations, etc. And you can also embed information windows like this. So that's an example of an actual document. Just so you can see behind the scenes, that document looks something like this. If I'm going to edit it, it's actually a workspace. So this is the workspace. And if you'll notice, it's actually like a document. You can create different types of document components, whether it's a header, a footer, body. It's a lot like working in Access with the forms interface in some regard. And you can do a number of things. I added this. It took me about 10 seconds to add this. This actually links out to an image on the RESA website. And so you can really begin to build other content. So very simply, if I wanted to come in and add a button, let's just say I wanted to link this out to another website, I could simply come in and say, let's add a button here, and we'll call this Google, and you can format it however you want. And I'm going to have that button do something. So I want that button to navigate to google.com, and I want it to open a new window. So I'm not doing any HTML coding. It's all happening in the interface. And I close that, and I may want to make the button look a little bit better, so I can format it. If I want to make it bold and I want to change the colors, I can do that, and we'll make it kind of prettier, give it a little orange color, maybe make it a little smaller. And then when I save this, I'll save it, and then I'm going to run it just like somebody would see it. Here is now my document that I brought in, my SLO. This is actually Dalton's SLO data that we brought into the system. And then if I had a link, it would actually link me out to Google. So there's a lot of features within the document container, the document editing interface, that's very powerful. So that's the second type of visualization. The third type of visualization is a visualization called Visual Insights, or we call it the analytical dashboard. And the analytical dashboard is designed so that you can really analyze data, and you can build a really strong story around certain things. So for example, I'm gonna go down here to this CRCT proficiency level dashboard. So and I'll show you how we build these in just a second, or how you would build these. So this is the power user's view, and the power user has a whole series of tools. So in this case, I actually added data from the CRCT proficiency, and that came right out of the data warehouse. So that data was loaded in the warehouse, it was made available, and then I went into the data warehouse, drag and drop, and I built this little data set, and then I built these visualizations. And then within this visualization, you can do filters, so that now, when I click a school, it's going to change the data based on the filter that I build. You can have multiple visualizations in one user experience. The end user would actually see this. This is what they would see. They would not see all of the tools that I just showed you. So if I just wanted to look at language arts or any subject, I can drill right to that information. And if I want to see it for just one school, Roan School, I can see that information. And again, these are all interactive. There's other features that you can provide as we go. You can show the data, you can export the data. So there's a lot of features that can be taken advantage of with the visual dashboard. If I wanted to create even a bigger portfolio, you can have tabs. So if you see at the bottom, we have tabs, and as a matter of fact, we can actually move these to the top if we want to. So let's move them to the top. So now my tabs are at the top. If I wanted to change the color, I can go to Format and make it a light theme. And then you have complete control over all of the colors and graphics and fonts. This is HTML5, so it's very powerful with formatting. Whatever you want to do, you can do that in this system. But if I wanted to add another tab and bring in an additional set of data, I can simply add another tab. And so I've got an empty workspace, and I may say, hey, I want my enrollment data in here as well. So you simply say add data, and I'm just going to grab an existing data set that I'm aware of. So let me go over here to my enrollment data, and I'll just grab the school level enrollment over years. So it's going to bring that data set in to the left panel. And now I can build another visualization. If I wanted to just do a simple grid, I can begin to build that. I can pull academic years over into my grid. I can pull my school name. I can pull over my, my grade level, my gender, and then I can bring over my enrollment count. And so now I've built another visualization, and I may say, well, I want the user of this dashboard to be able to select the school. I simply drag the school name over, and I can provide different mechanisms. So I can actually, give me 1 second, let me pull this over a second. Here we go. There we go. So I can do check boxes, I can do sliders, search box, or radio buttons. So if you do radio buttons, you know, it's gonna show it as a simple radio button, and I can name the sheet if I want to enrollment. And if I want to, now if I select this, you'll notice that it will actually filter the data based on that. Now, because of our security model, if we had multiple districts, you know, in this single analytics, when you log in, it's going to recognize what district that you're a member of, associated with, and then you would only be able to see the data that's relevant to your district, unless it was a regional analysis that was designed so that all the districts could see that data. And over to the right, and I'm just going to show you these, some of these will be relevant to the data, some won't. There are different visualizations. So if I want to do a heat map, I can do heat mapping, and there's a lot of configuration on how you do heat mapping to show different data densities and different types of metrics. You can do, of course, charting and graphing, and there's a whole series of mechanisms to control that. You can do line charts, area, you can do bubble, which that doesn't make sense for this particular visualization. You can do pie charts. And you can even do mapping. We're not implementing mapping yet in the RESA, but that is something that you can do as well. And so now, you know, if I have my report and it's ready to go, I can actually save this, and then when I publish it, it'll be available so that when the end users come into this report, they would actually be able to navigate and see the different visualizations that I've built as well. So that is an example of a analytical dashboard. So I'm going to close that out really quickly, and I'm going to show you a couple of other features. It's 3:11. We only have about 20 more minutes. We also can do advanced analytics. So there's a number of ways to do advanced analytics. I'm just going to show you a simple example. I am not a statistician. I did this myself. So but basically, I built a multiple-year view of the enrollment data for the district, and then when I did that, I indicated that we wanted to be able to see a trend line. So we enabled a trend line, and we said we want it to be a forecasting trend line, and in this case, we're using a logarithmic statistical algorithm. And there are other algorithms that you can use, and if you're a statistician, some of this will make more sense to you. And then you can enable forecasting based on forward backwards. So if I wanted to look, you know, do a forecast 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. The other thing, and I didn't add this, I got in a hurry, but you would add another component, little metric in here that would actually have the dates so that you would see the out dates. But you can see that we have a forecast based on the specific historical data, and this is a trend, and this is the system forecasting. And so, like that forecasting model stays with all the disaggregations. So whatever I'm looking at, it actually will stay in place. So if I want to see that same information for Blue Ridge Elementary, you'll see how the forecast changes. This is effective when you're getting into forecasting on planning facilities, planning teacher, hiring, those types of things. You could also do this with assessment data or any type of data that you have a good amount of data. You can begin to do forecasting. You could also even do this at the student level based on performance in the past. How do we forecast that the student would do on, a future assessment or something like that? Again, you can also disaggregate that. So I took that same data set and I added special ed. So now I'm looking at the same data set, but I'm looking at the special ed population and what the forecast is. So if you look at the district, you can see that the forecast for the special ed population is actually to slowly increase. And then if I wanted to look at a specific school, I can actually see how this would change based on certain criteria. And I can even disaggregate that further by male and female. So this is a little bit more of the advanced analytics. I will tell you that this is just scratching the surface on the capability of the product, and I'll demonstrate that very quickly by creating or showing you the metrics interface. So actually, there's over 400 mathematical, data mining, date and time, financial, logical, statistical metrics that are already built into the actual system itself. And we're not going to go into all this, but basically if you're really an advanced user of data and you understand different types of statistical or mathematical functions, you can do this all in the report itself, in the analysis and on the data set. So it's very, very powerful in that regard. The last thing I want to show you, and if there's questions, we'll take those at the end. Let's say that the data is in the data warehouse. There's a project. It's loading the domains that we've all agreed to load. But maybe you did something like you had a survey, or you had a special grant, and you've collected data maybe in Excel, or maybe there is state data and you want to download that data, and you don't have time to request that it be loaded into the warehouse, and there's always costs associated with work like that. So you can actually pull data from Excel spreadsheets. So I simply say add external data, and we'll do something very simple. I'm going to grab a file. I'm going to choose it. I'm going to grab the Georgia High School Graduation Test by school, and I'm going to open it, and then I'm going to do something called prepare the data. So it lets me actually look at the data in the interface, and if I go down and I look at it, I say, well, everything is an attribute except for number of students. That's a metric. The reason it's a metric is you can count it, so we're going to convert that to a metric. And there are different functions that you can do in this interface. The other thing that's interesting is if I have, for example, the GTID or some type of unique ID, I can actually map that to an attribute in the data warehouse itself, and that way I can bring data in from outside, and I can do, it's called data mashup. That's where you actually pull data in and you want to analyze that and you want to compare it to other data that's already in the warehouse. But we're not going to do that today. We're just simply going to finish, and it's going to ask us to save this. So we're going to save this as our import demo. I'm going to save it. It's building it. It's loading the data, and it asks me, do I want to create one of those three visualizations, a dashboard, a document, or a report? And I'm just going to create a quick dashboard from that data. So here's my data. And so now, again, I can bring my data in, and I can begin to build out, exactly what I want to see. Bring my mean score down here. And so now I'm looking at Georgia High School graduation data. Did not have to call the vendor to have them put it in here. I will tell you, if you do it outside of the data warehouse, you have to be a little careful, because if you do student level data, that does bypass the data security. So the data security is part of our warehouse implementation. But in most cases, you won't be doing student level. If you are doing student level, it may be that you're doing it for your own analysis. Again, now I have this data, and I can actually build, if I want to build a chart really quickly, I can build the chart. If I said I want to color this by subject, I can color it by subject, and then maybe I want to bring another set of data in. I can actually go back out to my hard drive again, and I can say add data, and let's grab some more data. Let's grab some external data, and we're going to grab, in this case, we're going to grab the end of course strand level data, and I'll prepare it. And we know that number of students is a metric. We know that mean is a metric. Everything is not a metric. Those are things that are attributes. And I'm going to hit finish, and it's going to load that data set into that same visualization. So now I have that data set available. And now if I want to add another visualization, and we'll just go ahead and call this one our CRCT. And if I click insert visualization, I can drop that right beside this. And again, I can do the same thing. I can say, well, let's look at it by year, academic year. Let's look at it by school. And actually, that's school. This actually came right off of the DOE website. So that's the school name. And let me do subject. And let me do strand. And let me do my mean. So I drop that in. And so now I have two specific visualizations, and you can format your mean so that you can change you can change your if I go to fixed, I can actually change my decimal places if I want to. Let's decrease the decimal places to this, and it'll update the mean. Actually, well, we'll keep going. And so if I wanted to change that to a heat map, I could bring that into a heat map. So now I've got two visualizations. I can save those, I can publish those, and voila, you've got data-driven analysis with education data. So I'm going to exit this and just go back to my demo environment. And I know that's a lot for a little period of time. Does anybody have any questions? And Bucky, if you wanted me to show something else, because I did go kind of quick, I'm happy to do that.
Thanks, Mike. If you have any questions, if you'll type them in the chat, we'll be glad to address those. And we will hang out for a few more minutes just to be sure. But thank you for attending today. We have recorded this session, so if you had to step away for any part of it, we will provide that recording. Just shoot us an email. But otherwise, thank you and have a great day.